This is the Spurs Postcast, your instant game reaction for the San Antonio Spurs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, sometimes it just kind of feels like, it's not going to be your night. And you do everything in your power to show up and down the stretch and try to make the plays when you count, and you're still hanging around. But at the end of the day, it's just not your night. And tonight, against the Portland Trail Blazers, it was not the Spurs night. Welcome into the Spurs Postcast right here on Locked On Spurs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in all of the land because of the everydayers like yourself. San Antonio tonight going down on the tail end of a back-to-back 115-110 to the Trailblazers at the Frost Bank Center, dropping to 25-10 on the season. He, of course, NBA champion Devin Brown. I'm Casey Viera, my friend, on a night that never really felt like the Spurs got into a true swing of things, a true rhythm, yet they found themselves competitive down the stretch, but perhaps tired legs, perhaps something of a thing that we're going to hit on in a little bit, a slumping situation, a recurring issue that they're having, maybe becoming a little bit more of a thing. Either way, you were waiting for him to settle in tonight, and it just never really happened.
Hey, Casey, tired legs, the departure last night from Indy, who knows, but let's talk about it. Let's get into it.
This is what you'll be talking about.
And from the jump, it didn't, like I alluded to, it did not look particularly great. Trailing by 11 after 1. They hit one of their 8 threes. Donovan Clingan, their big guy, actually Stephon Castle's old teammate at UConn, that championship team. He had the first 11 points for Portland. Mind, this is a Trailblazers team. They're playing better under the direction of head coach Tiago Splitter, currently in the 10th spot in the Western Conference, but only suited up 11 guys and gave the Spurs havoc for that entirety of the first quarter, really the entirety of the night. They get it down to 4 points by halftime. In a second quarter that the Trailblazers led by as many as 15, but Julian Champagnie, a couple threes. He had 10 points in the second quarter. And ultimately, it's down to a 5-point game, 55-51, heading into the halftime break. To their credit, San Antonio did bounce back. They did take the lead in the early in the third quarter. But then they went through a prolonged stretch. Check this out, Devin. From the 2:04 mark until the 8-minute quarter, where they only had one field goal made. And as a result, what was an 87-80 lead for the Trailblazers after 3 quarters of play balloons up to 13 early in the fourth. But to the Spurs' credit, they bounced back down the stretch. Shots were not falling. Going to hit on what's a very ugly number in just a minute. And that 13-point deficit gets all the way down to 1 after a Stephon Castle and 1 and subsequent steal and layup on the other direction. But Deni Avdija, their breakout star this year up there in Portland, a guy who, ironically enough, in the first meeting missed 5 free throws in the final 3 minutes of the game, hits the go-ahead dagger with a 3, put Portland up 114-110, and essentially the game out of reach. Fox, 19-6-4. Luke Kornet, 23 points, 8 rebounds, 5 blocks. Castle, 16, 5 and 9. Champagnie, 20 points, 10 rebounds. They shot collectively as a whole 10 of 31 from 3, going down on the second of a back-to-back Avdija triple-double in the win for Portland. Not the most aesthetically pleasing of Saturday nights. It is what it is, though. It's the NBA, and tired legs, looking like maybe it was the legs. I don't know. It just wasn't there tonight.
No. We've talked about that before. Travel's not an issue. I've been on those planes. They're first class, things like that. Here's the deal. You got down early and tried to fight back. But in games like this, against teams like this, where, they seem to be a little bit more hungry than we are, what happens is you're fighting uphill all game. Sometimes you're going to win those. Sometimes, like tonight, you're going to lose those. But as players, you want to stay away from that kind of stuff. But the Spurs found themselves, in the midst of that tonight. Some of the guys got their numbers. Some of the guys had good nights. But as a whole, like you said, they seem a step slow. And, that's something that you got to fix because, like we talked about before, Casey, you don't want these games to add up. So right now, you had a couple of teams that are chasing you, hat off, luckily. but they're right there. But Casey, seems like we're working on something that we need to fix right now.
Yeah, the Spurs now 2-3 since sweeping those Oklahoma City games back on Christmas. And the cautionary thing is the three-point shooting. I'm going to read off some numbers here. These are the last 5 games. Mind you, the Spurs they did win 2 of these games, so do with that what you will. But the last 5 games, Utah 10 of 44 from 3, Cleveland 7 of 31 from 3. They lost those games. The Knicks 14 of 38. Champagnie obviously was the big outlier there, but if you take out that 11 of 17 that he shot in that game, they go 3 of 27 from deep the rest of the way. Pacers 13 of 46, and tonight Portland 10 of 31 from deep. That's not many makes to a whole lot of misses. And what I think we're starting to see from this Spurs team right now is kind of what me individually thought we were going to see a lot more, was that they were going to struggle even with Victor. And obviously he didn't play again tonight, but even with Victor, it felt like there were going to be times, because of the lack of the shooting on this team, they were really going to struggle in the half court, and they were going to have to win games with their defense. And ironically enough, they actually almost won the game with their defense down the stretch. Right. But at the end of the day, what feels familiar about this is that when you're not making your threes and it leads to a subsequent run out on the other end, and the team's making threes, and you just don't have the counter punch to it, and it happens, and it feels like you kind of establish of what the flaw is. And that is, right now, they're not a very good three-point shooting team. And come the deadline, you think that might be a thing of concern too, or a point of focus. That's the direction that they go, especially if Devin Vassell is going to be out an extended period of time too, because we don't really know what's happening on that front neither. Either way, the shooting really is becoming a thing. And as a result, we're having conversations like we're having tonight.
Well, we all know that there's plenty of shooting machines up there. And, when we look at games, we see about 49 coaches on the bench. So there's plenty of rebounders there if guys want to get shots up. And we know that they'll get better at shooting the basketball because that's just a big part of what San Antonio does ever since I've been there, before I was there, and even up till now. So let's talk about the other issue. So here's one of the biggest things in the locker room. Well, if we can't throw it in the ocean, which they can't throw it in the ocean right now, we got to stop people. Well, we're seeing them be a little late on rotations, right now. So it's not a whole lot of good going on, Casey. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and, it's another loss. It's tough. They've been in and out of town, things like that. But like I said, we're not going to push the panic button. We're the San Antonio Spurs. We'll be back. They'll be back. But right now, Casey, yeah, you got to dig into a couple of issues, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, the bench collectively as a whole was lousy too tonight. 18 points between Olynyk, Keldon, Carter Bryant, and Dylan Harper. Keldon
as opposed to what last night, Casey?
As opposed to 57 points last night. Only 18 tonight. Dylan Harper, not a great showing. 2 points, 2 of 12 from the field, and 23 minutes of work. If I'm not mistaken, Dad was actually in the building tonight. So don't quote me on that, but I thought I saw that on Twitter that Ron Harper was in the building. Poor Dylan, man. Hey,
we're 0 for 3, Casey. We're 0 for 3 with Pops in the building.
I know, man. I think they won the Oklahoma City game.
No, yeah. I'm talking about his personal performance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, at least in the Oklahoma City game, he had some steals, and his lone basket was that big dunk. But hey, listen, you take the dub when you can get it. All right, I want to revisit that Deni Avdija shot down the stretch, and what was kind of the turning point, not necessarily from Devin Slight went out. We'll work with that.
Yeah, we'll work with that.
We'll work with that. But we'll go back to Deni, because Portland, I guess you could say, shot the lights out down the stretch and was kind of a byproduct of some stagnant offense leading up to it.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point,
which was a De'Aaron Fox miss, and a couple of them leading up to it. You were not particularly crazy about how Fox looked in crunch time tonight.
Just 1 point game. And anybody that knows the game of basketball, and like I said, I'm not trying to, dictate what shots that young man takes. But if we look back at the film, which they will, didn't like that one. All right. And Casey, at the end of the day, the end result was what? Avila coming back and hitting a dagger 3 that put them up 4. Mitch, De'Aaron, they'll look at that. De'Aaron will be better next time out. And that's all I want to say about that, Casey.
I mean, you're not going to go out there bat 1,000 every single time. We know that. And that was the case tonight. But now it's a matter of, getting better at bats, because over the past couple of weeks, they haven't been particularly great at bats. Even in the victories, they haven't looked ideal. So we'll find out. We'll look ahead to the future and how they can iron things out. One that Mitch Johnson today is thinking's looking a little bit brighter, so to speak, because he gave an update on Victor Wembanyama and his potential return coming back from that hyperextended left knee. So coming up on the other side of the break, we'll give you the Wemby update and put some final touches on tonight's 115-110 defeat to the Portland Trailblazers, dropping San Antonio to 25-10 on the season, their 5th loss at the Frost Bank Center. But before we do, want to talk about our friends at FanDuel. As you already know, FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA, and they're making Fridays even better. If you listened to me last week going into yesterday's game, you know that they're on top of the NBA happy hour. What is it? Well, it's your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts from 6 to 7:30 Eastern time. It's really appointment viewing with NBA happy hour. Why? Well, if you open up the FanDuel app, there's a whole bunch of chances for you to win money. Boosts, bonuses, surprises, a whole bunch of really good things to get your weekend started on a high. So before tip-off, be sure to check out the FanDuel app, see what's dropping during happy hour. Again, one more time, from 6 to 7:30 Eastern, right before the game start and during the early portions of the game. So a little basketball and a whole lot of Friday energy is what you're looking for with NBA happy hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Not San Antonio's evening tonight, going down to the Portland Trailblazers, 115-110. Back to work they go on Tuesday. Memphis on deck. And Memphis Grizzlies team that's having a hard time getting out of their own way themselves, right in the back end of the Western Conference. Mitch Johnson today giving an update on Victor Wembanyama. Vague, but vague in a positive sense is always vague in a negative sense. It's the fact that Wemby is looking good, so he says, and they have a good feeling trying to come back from that hyperextended left knee. Again, we'll see what happens. But my thing, looking at it now, and the Wemby side of it, potentially getting him back into the mix, not potentially, they will, was that, is there kind of a tailored game plan at this point to work him back into the thick of things? I'm not going to the extent of, I don't think they'll bring him off the bench again.
Bring him off the bench. Yeah, I knew you were going there.
I don't think they will. But I'll tell you what, I mean, they won a whole lot with him off the bench, and the bench has been struggling with the exception of the Pacer game recently.
Yeah.
But now you wonder if this is kind of a little bit of a setback to now he's on a little bit of a tighter minutes restriction again. And we'll find out. I mean, coming back against Memphis, if coming back against Oklahoma City was a concern, or I guess the Lakers in the play-in, potentially, not the play-in, the Cup group game, and worried about the physicality there, potentially. I mean, the Memphis team, that is not. If you're worried about getting the legs back, and that's a concern, that Memphis team is not the softest bunch between Edey and Jaren Jackson. So we'll see. But no, I think we're just kind of wondering, is this going to be a setback on the minutes restriction? And I'm not particularly sure.
Well, everybody that's in that practice with San Antonio, whether he's going 1-on-1 in the private workouts or 2-on-2, 3-on-3, things like this, you might as well be a quarterback with the red jersey on. You're not supposed to hit certain people, things like that. But like you said, Casey, Memphis doesn't care about any of that. If they see him on the floor, they're going to go after him. So there is a fine line on what it is that you feel that Victor can take right now and coming back and for that need to be 100% healthy. So San Antonio, yes, they're going to walk a fine line. At the same time, you need wins right now. So that's going to be up to the medical staff, up to Coach Mitch on what it is that they're going to want to do handling this situation right now. If I'm Wemby, I'd go out there and test it for about 6 or 7 minutes against Memphis, see how I feel, and give you an honest evaluation after that. So, Casey, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see how they handle this.
I am kind of the belief that even if it is a little bit of a setback, they tighten up the minutes, so to speak. You do it. You do it right now, lose the battle, win the war. If they go down and they lose a game in Memphis because Wemby's only playing 20 minutes and he's feeling a little bit tender on that knee, okay, you live with it. Right now, honestly, my more pressing concern, I mean, you don't want to see Victor injured in any capacity, but my more pressing concern is that a lot of the things that we were worried about with them at the start of the season are starting to show on the offensive side of the floor. Defense was never really a concern. When you have Victor, I mean, they're better defensively than I thought they were going to be because they haven't even had Victor for almost half the season, and they're still in the upper, top 10 in the league. But I think offensively, a lot of things are starting to pop up. I think the decision making was something that we worried about down the stretch. Who would have the ball in their hands to make the plays? The lack of discipline has popped up at times. It was very prevalent in the Knicks game. Thankfully, Champagnie bailed them out and they tidied things up in the second half. And then the 3-point shooting it's not going to be good enough if you're in these playoff games, if they're going to make a push to be playing in May, and barring some divine intervention in June, you got to hit more than a 30 or threes. And it might only just kind of be a 2-week slump, and then we move past it. Victor is back and Devin Vassell is back. I mean, Devin Vassell hasn't played in 3 of those 5 games, so that would help. But I think there are, at least in my mind, those are more cautionary things for me right now than Victor's health, because they've already shown how they're going to navigate with Victor. Is that they're going to do everything in their power to be conservative. And at the end of the day, in all likelihood, that's what it's going to be the rest of the way. So you're already aware of what it is. But I'm at the point where I wouldn't go as far as worried, but I'm concerned by some of the things that are popping up right now.
All right, so here it is. When this we talked about, this is that whole front running thing, right? So when the Spurs space the floor, they're hitting their threes, able to drive to the basket. Victor's able to be Victor. Very good, very good. Now the concerns come when 2 of the 3 get shut down. You're not hitting threes. Either Victor's hurt or he's not playing well. Well, now this is where you start building that championship pedigree. All right. It's like I told you tonight when I text you, finding a way to win this game. I said, dig. They got to dig in right here. All right. I don't know what they were down at the time, maybe 10 with a little bit, like maybe a quarter to go. And I said, they got to dig in. They got to find a way to win this ball game. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care who scores. Just find a way to win this basketball game. Well, they didn't. So that when you talk about your concerns, that's what I talk about. My concerns is Portland, teams like this, like, come on. Like, you guys can, get all these wonderful things when you have a lead and then the team comes back, but then you're able to pull the game out. But I haven't seen them come back from 10, from 12. In 05, that's what we were really good at. So, Casey, when you talk about what I'm looking for, that's what I'm looking for.
Well, I think that's a good point that you bring because I mean, Utah, there's no reason to, I know Utah's playing okay, but there's no reason for that to happen against Utah. Cleveland, I mean, that's a little bit more of a debatable conversation. The Pacers are terrible, and they cut that down to 6 yesterday because of those things. Poor shot selection, forcing the envelope, just chucking up these awful threes, and Indy got back into the game within 6. And then tonight, a Trailblazers team that they're better than, and even on tired legs, even without Victor Wembanyama, even without Devin Vassell, have more than enough to, in their own building, had more than enough to win this game, and they didn't. And again, I mean, you try not to get lost because the team is 25-10
Exactly.
at the end of the day. But now, and this was an inevitable crossroads we were going to get at, because, they weren't going to be playing 750 ball for the duration of the season. If you were being completely rational and looked at it from a regular lens and took off the Fiesta colored goggles, they were not going to push 65 wins in all likelihood. They were not. It was going to be an inevitable ebb and flow. And, this is a little bit of a regression that we were going to see. So you're not surprised by it when you look at it outside of a vacuum, but that doesn't mean it's any less frustrating,
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that I love about the Spurs fans, is that they realize, and this is how we look at it, Casey, is even in some of their wins, we may not be on camera when we talk about this, but we still dissect what it is that we're seeing. And yes, they may come out with a win, but you go, hey, we need to watch out for this or that. So when you see a game like a Portland, well, now we come on here and we're like, hey, that's been a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem. Okay, well, yeah, that's just what we do. But at the same time, I'll tell you what, because we're running out of time, we'll save it for another time. But I'm going to tell you this. They just got to get back, play Memphis, get a win, and leave it at that.
And their biggest problem tonight, at least dressed up in Portland Trailblazers colors, a guy who's really breaking out this season.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
29, 11, and 10, Deni Avdija making that all-star push and hit the dagger 3 down the stretch and ultimately put away a tough one tonight for the Spurs.
Hey, first of all, he will be there. He'll be an all-star. If not, that's criminal. But he had an amazing night, Casey. He was all over the place. He's the heart and soul. Ever since Tiago took over, he's been depending on him, and it's not a bad guy to depend on. Congratulations to him tonight.
Yeah, good homecoming for Tiago Splitter. That's actually the first game that he has coached in San Antonio since taking over in that interim capacity for the Trailblazers. So a good homecoming for our old buddy up there doing some good things. Not a good night for the San Antonio Spurs as they dropped 25-10 on the season. We will be back for a postcast, that is, Tuesday. We got a few days off until we do this. They're in Memphis, that aforementioned Grizzlies game. And as always, we'll be at the back end of that. And we'll also be back on Monday as well. Because of the schedules and all shifting going on, our Spurs Squad Show, Jeff Garcia, of course, hosts the title pod, coming in, tagging in Monday. That's what we have that in line for, 9 o'clock to recap a little bit of a so-so stretch for the San Antonio Spurs. Monday, 9 o'clock. Not going to want to miss that. Hopefully, feeling a little better between then and now because, well, not the Spurs night, but as we do, as always, we show you love to you guys on our way out the door. You're the ones who make this possible. You're the ones that you're the reason that the Locked On Podcast Network is the #1 sports podcast network in the world. So we got to shout you guys out before we get on out of here. And so we shall do exactly that on what's left of our Saturday night. Not a great one for the Spurs, but they try to bounce back against the Grizzlies later on this week. For my dear friend Devin, I'm Casey Viera. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.